to our show that is called Real Shame, where we watch movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
Earlier in the week, we watched, his name just left me, David Lynch's version of Dune, the first film adaptation of Dune. And today we're at you with the latest and greatest film adaptation of...
Oh, is that me?
Yeah, it's you.
Dune!
Dune! Dune!
Yeah, so Denis Villeneuve brings Frank Herbert's epic sci-fi novel to the screen once again for 2021, for 2021 audiences. It's the 2021 version of Dune.
A boy.
Hey, Duncan, can I trust you with something?
Yes, always. You know that.
I've been having dreams about a girl on Arrakis. I don't know what it means.
Dreams make good stories. But everything important happens when we're awake. Hey, you. Put on some muscle?
I did?
No.
And of course, you can see Dune right now, as we're filming this, in theaters, or you can watch it on HBO Max, which is where
We're not...
we watched it. We didn't go to the theater because we both have HBO Max. So it was directed by Denis Villeneuve.
Yep.
And the screenplay was written by John Spates, Denis Villeneuve, and Eric Roth. So Denis Villeneuve, big director these days. He's done movies like Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal, Prisoners with Hugh Jackman, and also Jake Gyllenhaal, Sicario, but he's done some sci-fi movies, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and now he's bringing Dune. And I guess we should...
Should we call it? Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to say it?
That's what I was going to ask you. Do we spoil it? Are we spoiling?
No, I don't think we should spoil it, but I will say we should probably start calling it Dune Part 1.
Okay, I just didn't know. Because when I didn't know that it was Dune Part 1. When I started, when I sat down to watch it, I thought I was going to see the whole...
It gave you 30, it was like 30 seconds into it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize it was they were trying to split it into two parts. I thought the all 2.5 hours, whatever it is, was going to be the entire book. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think we should probably save like big spoilers towards the end if we have spoilers. But I think Dune Part 1, since it happens like during the titles, it's not that big of a spoiler. But if it is, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Spoiled.
So I went through the cast list in the 1984 Dune. This one doesn't have as many, I feel like, people. I mean, there's plenty of people in the cast, but I will list Rebecca Ferguson this time plays Lady Jessica. Timothy Chalamet plays Paul Atreides. Oscar Isaac plays Duke Leto Atreides. Stellan Skarsgård this time plays Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Josh Brolin plays Gurney Halleck, takes over the role from Sir Patrick Stewart. Jason Momoa plays Duncan Idaho. Dave Bautista plays the Beast Raban. Stephen McKinley Henderson is Thufir Hawat, and he does not have crazy eyebrows like Freddie Jones had in the last movie. Zendaya, instead of Sean Young, plays Chani. And Chang Chen plays Dr. Yui, not Dean Stockwell. All right, so once again, this is your week.
It is.
So you got to tell us what you thought of the 1984 Dune first, and you also get to tell us what you think of the 2021 Dune first, and how does it stack up? Obviously, you didn't like the 1984 one, so how does it stack up against the 1984 one as well?
So the 1984 one had me worried about this new movie.
Okay.
Because I was worried I wasn't going to like it, and I'm not a big fan of this movie. I don't like it that much. I think it's very... I think my criticisms of this movie are what your criticisms were with Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
Where I think it's very visually pleasing and stuff. I think it's very interesting. You know, the thing also with the David Lynch version is like the characters don't feel that different because they're living on different planets, and some have bushy eyebrows, some have like different hair, but it just feels like every backdrop and every kind of place is of the same ilk. And I do like in this one where we're in the Atreides home world, you know, their buildings look really different than when we're in, you know, we're on Arachnin or we're on Dune. Arrakis. Yeah. Like that feels very different. I like how these like different areas feel really different. I think it's rendered really well. It's very visually pleasing, but at the end of the day, I don't care about any of these characters. I don't know what Timothy Chalamet, what Paul wants. Like, I know that, you know, he has a kind of conversation with his dad where he's like, I don't want this. But he doesn't really go into it. So I don't know how any of the things that are happening, how he feels about any of that stuff. And for me, that's what pulls me in as an audience member is feeling for these characters, empathizing with their situation and wanting to, know what goes on. And for this movie, it just feels like you're at a distance the whole time and you're seeing these things happen to them, but you don't know how they feel about these things that are happening to them.
You needed the David Lynch thought narration.
I did. Yeah, maybe that would have helped. So for me, like, it's just, I'm like, okay, like this is happening. Cool. They're in some dragonfly helicopters. Cool. Like it's visually interesting, but I don't care for any of the characters. And it feels a little like pomp a little bit. It feels a little up its own butt, like a little self-important. I get that vibe from this movie. And, but maybe because I didn't really care for what was going on the screen, I feel that, And I think you do kind of got to strut a little bit when you're going to do some big sci-fi kind of stuff. But for me, since it didn't really work for me, I just kind of said it. So again, I'm going to have more people at my door with pitchforks because I think this one's getting pretty fairly good reviews. But some of the reviews I read are kind of like that, where it's like, it's visually pleasing, but there's not a lot of story there. And that's kind of where I fall, where it's just like, yeah, it's cool to look at, but ultimately I don't care about anybody. So why am I here? Kind of stuff. So that's where I fall currently on 2021's Dune. Where do you fall on it, Mr.? So to answer your last question, I don't know if I like this one better than the David Lynch one. Both of them I have no interest in repeating viewings or reevaluating or watching again, because they both just seem like it's just a waste of time for me. So I don't know. Maybe this one's visually more better, so maybe that's why. But okay, go back to you. So you weren't a fan of the 84 Dune. No. You do like the novels that you read. You read 3 of the 6.
Yes.
So how were you excited for this movie when this? Okay, I wasn't excited for this movie when it came out. Yes. So you were hyped. You were excited. You sat down, had a bag of popcorn, ready to watch on HBO Max.
Actually, you're correct. I did. I had a bowl of popcorn that I made. I did.
So how do you feel about Denis Villeneuve's Dune? Did it bring you what you wanted?
I mean, I would say yes for the most part. So I was very excited for this film because I am a big fan of, especially the Dune, the original novel. I do like the 2 other books that I read, but I really, really love Dune. And because the 80s version is so abysmally bad, in my opinion, I was really, really excited. And I like Denis Villeneuve's filmography for the most part. Even though I wasn't as big a fan of Blade Runner 2049, I still would sit through it again because I think it's a cool looking movie, kind of like the first Blade Runner. I think it's a very cool looking movie. Maybe not the most amazing movie ever. But I think this movie... So I actually kind of agree with you, but I kind of disagree with you as far as the disparity between the 2 worlds. I think if you've seen a Denis Villeneuve movie, especially if you've seen his science fiction movies, they're very bleak looking and austere and cold. And I feel like this movie is no different. Yes. So I don't feel like, I still feel like, even though Caladan, where the Atreides are from, the planet or their buildings might look different, it still feels very cold and clinical.
Yes.
In both places. So whether they're on Caladan or whether they're on Arrakis or whether I think they show Gidi Prime in this movie, which is where the Harkonnens are from. Yes. I know a lot of times they're on
Stellan Skarsgård like does his little magic trick.
Yeah. Well, and I know that they make their way to Arrakis, later on in the film, but I can't remember if they originally showed them on Gidi Prime. I guess they do. Yeah, when he's talking to the
beast.
Mother Gaius Mohiam, the Reverend Mother Gaius Mohiam of the Bene Gesserit, played by Charlotte Rampling, who I left her out of the cast list. Charlotte Rampling, been around a long time. She was in The Verdict, which we did on the show not too long ago, or maybe last year. I can't remember. But anyway, I like this movie overall. I feel like they're finally doing it some justice, bringing it to the big screen. And I think Denis Villeneuve is a good choice. But again, I do have the criticism that I feel like the whole thing is very, very cold. Yeah. Like it's not, I feel like if you're on Caladan, it should be warm and happy. Even if Paul is maybe a little bit unhappy or, he's kind of going through some teenage angst. That was another thing. In the lead up to this movie, I wasn't crazy about the casting of Timothée Chalamet. I wasn't crazy about the casting of Zendaya as Chani, even though in the book, I believe Paul is only, I think he starts at 13 years old and grows to like 15 or 16 in the book, in the original book. So he's supposed to be a young guy. Obviously, Timothy Chalamet is older than that, and so is Zendaya for that matter. So I don't mind them being younger than they were in the 1984 film, even though I like Kyle MacLachlan as Paul in the first film, and I like Sean Young just fine as Chani in the first film. But I wasn't crazy about the casting of either one of them. I'm still a little bit on the fence as far as Timothy Chalamet. I will say, I think Rebecca Ferguson does a fantastic job as the Lady Jessica. One thing that we didn't mention when we talked about the other film version, or when I talked about the novel, is this novel and film, the Bene Gesserit are all female, and it's like a religion basically, but these are very, very strong female characters. And I think Rebecca Ferguson plays a very, very strong role. I feel like Francesca Annis does in the first film as well, but I like her character, Rebecca Ferguson, that is. I like the way that she plays the Lady Jessica in this film. I think she does a good job. And I didn't have a problem really with the acting in this film at all. I mean, Jason Momoa kind of does Jason Momoa things, right? I mean, he's kind of like The Rock, and same with Dave Bautista. You know, these guys.
I feel like Dave Bautista, we don't get a whole lot in this movie, and we don't get a whole lot of Zendaya in this movie. Maybe
right,
that's
because it's split into two. Right, you don't get a lot of Zendaya.
The voice is interesting, like how it's rendered, but I think in both movies it's hard not to laugh whenever they do the voice or use the voice or whatever.
Yeah, I think it sounds better in this film than it does in the other film, and I feel like the ornithopters that they fly in look cool because they do look like dragonflies or something, kind of flying around, or hummingbirds or something like that. It looks cool. I think the worms look really cool. I mean, I think the special effects look great in this film, and I would hope they would in a movie, you know, with today's CGI and with whatever budget this thing had. I would hope that it looks better than the 1984 version, and I think that it does. But I would say overall, I'm pleased with what Denis Villeneuve brought to the screen. I read that it would have been better to me if they'd filmed part 1 and part 2 simultaneously, so that we knew when part 2 was coming out. As of now, part 2 is not even in production.
I think they want to see how well this movie does.
Well, and what if they ultimately decide not to make a part 2? I mean,
I'm not going to be heartbroken over it.
I know you won't, but I want to see the rest of the book, because it doesn't, it just kind of ends. And I think the movie does
splice in the Lynch version.
Well, yeah, I think the movie does stand on its own the way that it is. But if you've read the book, or if you've even seen the 1984 version, or if you've only seen the miniseries, you know that there's more to the story. So to have it end and not ever have a part 2, and again, I'm pretty sure they're going to make a part 2. But because there's no part 2 even in production, we know with COVID that slows everything down. So who knows when we're going to see part 2? I know you don't care, but I care. I want to see the continuation of the story, and I want to see more, especially with Denis Villeneuve at the helm. I want to see more of these books brought to the screen: Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, Chapter House Dune, God Emperor of Dune, whatever. Make them all. At least make all of the original 6 that Frank Herbert wrote, I say. But I did like this film. I think that it's good overall. It's so cold. Yeah. There's no warmth. But I think overall the acting is better. The special effects obviously are better. But yeah, I dig it. I think it's good.
So at the end of the day, is Paul, I mean, basically the story of Dune is Paul's basically the chosen one. Like, he assumes the title of Mouse Shadow or whatever.
Of Paul Muad'Dib.
Yeah, Muad'Dib. It's like Shadow of the Mouse.
Yeah, something like that.
But like, does he want it? Like, cause I don't get that vibe. I
don't think he does. I mean, he's a teenager, especially in the book. He's 13 years old when the book starts. So he just wants to be a teenager. But because he has been born as the only son, because they tell the Lady Jessica, you're supposed to only bear daughters. Right? And she went out of her way and had a son because she thinks he might be the Kwisatz Haderach, the chosen one. So again,
which is another kind of term you got to learn,
right? There's a lot of there's a lot of terminology. That's why you need a glossary, like they had with the first film. But if you view the Bene Gesserit as like this religion, they have been breeding for centuries and centuries, and because make no mistake, and again, this goes in with the strong female roles, they rule the universe. The emperor's in charge, but the Bene Gesserit are the kind of shadow government that advises all the different houses. And you don't have an emperor in this film. I'm sure there'll probably be an emperor in the second film. And you don't have a Fade, the Sting character, the Fade Rotha in this film. I'm not sure if they plan on bringing him in the second. I would hope they do, because he plays a part, in the book as well as the original film. But I don't know. But yeah, there's no emperor. There's no Princess Irulan, the Virginia Madsen character, in this film as well. So they've kind of,
and there's also no
pared down some of it.
Daughter,
right? Yeah, because they haven't gotten to the second part of the book. So Alia, played by Alicia Witt.
Probably a little bit of spoilers
we're
going to, but we're talking about things that aren't in the movie
or aren't in the original film. But if you view the Bene Gesserit as like a religion, they have basically been waiting on their Messiah. And the second book in the original first 6 novels is called Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
So it's basically, he doesn't necessarily want to be the chosen one, but like Neo, too bad, you are the chosen one. You're the one. And so he kind of is thrust into that. But he does have powers. He sees visions, and then the spice only adds to that. The spice melange only adds to his dreams and his visions. So
I just wish this movie focused more on Timothée Chalamet, and we kind of saw more of it through his eyes than more of like a clinical, like seeing everything. It feels like the camera's really a third party to everything, witnessing, almost omnipresent, right? Witnessing everything. Yeah. And I feel like if we were zoomed in more from Paul's point of view and he saw everything through his eyes, I think the movie would have worked. It would have been a little bit more traditional, and it probably would have worked a little bit more for me. Yeah. I think, him like seeing the planet Dune for the first time, him, going through this weird thing with the ladies, where they're testing him and all that kind of stuff. Like, we really don't get to see like his reaction to all that post that, right? Mm-hmm. We see it happen to him, and then we're just kind of on to the next piece. But it's like, you got pulled into a room, you stick your hand in a pain box, and the lady's like, hey, I got this needle that'll instantly kill you.
The Gom Jabbar.
You're a prince that's probably, had everything at your feet, and yet you have this lady that is like talking to you like you're just some random person off the street, right? Yeah. Like, what does that do? Like, you don't get any of that vibe from him. Like, what is that like? What is that experience? And then, that would kind of send him tumbling on this thing. I feel like would have been more interesting, right? Yeah. Like, what if it's like, use the kind of the Star Wars or the hero of many faces is like, he crosses that threshold when it happens, and like, he's finding out that the world he knows is not really the world that as it is, and let's see him kind of deal with it and understand this stuff. I feel like would have made me like it a little bit more. But
I got you. Well, so another thing that I kind of want to point out, that one of the distinctions between the 1980s film and this film. In the 1980s film, you have that whole thing with using 1980s CGI where they do the shield fighting. Yeah. And then they don't use that in the rest of the movie, I don't think.
No,
I think
don't.
They just do that whenever he's training
with Gurney
expensive. Halleck. Yeah. Who knows how much that costs to put on the screen. I like that in this movie they at least use it.
They use a bunch.
And they use it a lot. It does look cool. Yeah, when they do the shield fighting in this, it looks cool.
There's some times where it's like, that knife looked like it moved really fast.
Yeah.
But it's still red.
I completely agree.
Especially with like Duncan Idaho. He's like,
the slow blade is the only thing that can penetrate the shields. But yeah, sometimes they're like, and it still somehow manages to go through. I thought the same thing. I was like, what the hell? And then another thing about the 1980s film, Freddie Jones, crazy eyebrows and all, he is a mentat in that movie. And I don't feel like and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel like they explain much about kind of what a mentat is or what a mentat does. But a mentat is basically like a human computer, and they're all about logic and computing.
So that's why the guy's eyes roll back.
His eyes go back, and he computes. He's like, a round trip would take them, and he kind of quickly does it. So I like that they do that in this movie, because in the original movie, the guy just has crazy eyebrows. You're like, okay, and so does Brad Dourif. He's got crazy. So mentats have crazy eyebrows. Basically, that's what sets them apart from other people. They don't really do any kind of computing or anything like that.
You've heard of the computer with the tennis shoes.
Yeah.
This is the computer with the computer wore tennis shoes. This is the computer wore crazy eyebrows.
Computer wore crazy eyebrows. He wore some Morgan Freeman Dreamcatcher eyebrows. But no, so I like the mentat, the guy that plays the mentat in this, and his eyes roll back in his head when he's like, okay, he's computing something, and then he does that. So I feel like they do a better job, I think, of bringing a lot more of the details to the screen in this film, and kind of explaining them in a natural way or
Yeah.
kind of putting them out there for the audience that isn't familiar with what's going on better than the David Lynch version.
Oh, you left off the Polka
my
Dot Man
opinion.
on your cast list.
The Polka Dot Man.
Damon Dasmcallen or whatever. He basically was working for the Harkonnen dude. He's the
Was he Piter? Oh, that I
Yeah.
did. I left him off. I got
Yeah,
I
it's
listed
fine,
I
it's
listed
fine.
everybody and their dog for the 1980s one, and this
Yeah.
one I just got tired.
I
But
think
yes,
we're- yeah.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he plays Piter or Peter DeVries.
Yeah.
I've heard it said both ways. But yeah, he's also a Mentat.
All right, so we know how we fall on this movie. Where the
Wait,
critics fall. No,
I did want to ask you, what did you think about Stellan Skarsgård's makeup and suspensors and everything?
I mean, it's
I liked it.
it's just hard to tell what was going on with him. I guess
Yeah.
he had like walrus neck or something.
Yeah.
What was going on? Like
He
with,
got turned into a walrus like Justin Long and Tusk.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like with the 1984 version, it's like this guy has pus modules all over his face, and it's like
Yeah, and I think that
pretty
was just
graphic.
a weird Lynch touch.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he has that in the book. He probably does, but I think David Lynch was just like, I just want to make him
I mean,
weird looking.
and I guess do you have to refer to the spice as the spice melange, or can you just call it the spice?
Spice.
I guess
They're
what happens
interchangeable.
is the spice is toxic for people, and that's why he has all those pus modules on his face,
I don't remember.
and why Skeleton Skarsgård
Well, the
is
reason he
walrus.
floats all the time is just because he's so fat. He's so heavy. And
Really?
so, but they don't really ever say that in either of the two
Wait,
movies.
what?
But that's so he doesn't have to walk and carry that weight. He just flies around instead.
Wait, is this like practically or like in the novel of the book?
I think that's in the
The
novel.
world of the book?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
He just flies around. It's like this anti-gravity kind of.
I just want to
suspensors or
see some
something
like
that.
James
Yeah.
Bond kind of thing where like, when he pumps the guy full of CO2 and he's
And
just
this
like,
is- yeah, like Yaphet Kotto
Yeah.
and to live and let die. Yeah,
live and let
that's the best part of that movie.
Man,
Okay,
man,
I was just curious what you thought about Stellan Skarsgård. All right, it is 83% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with a 91% audience score. So maybe a lot of Dune fans are voting.
Yeah, I mean,
for-
I think
for
it's
the-
getting well reviewed. I mean, like I said, I went through some of the IMDb stuff, and it seems to be, or seems some of the reviews from Rotten Tomato. I'm seeing a lot of like 3 out of 5 stars, 4 out of 5 stars. So
Yeah.
people aren't over the moon with it, but they are happy with it.
Well, and I think it's a combination probably of people just think it's good, and then you've also got people that go, well, it's better than everything that's come before it.
Yeah.
It's better than because it is better than the 2000 miniseries. I'm sorry. I mean, it's got a bigger budget, it's better cast, better acting. So it's superior to both the 1984 film and the 2000 miniseries.
Should have had James Gunn do Dune. Been brighter, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Maybe. I
Maybe.
don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I think Denis Villeneuve was the right guy for the job, even if everything, his sci-fi movies all kind of look
The same.
the same to me.
No,
in a
you
way.
said that. I'm like, yep, exactly. Because like
Yeah, you know what you're getting with him.
Vegas and Blade Runner 2049 looks just like
Yeah, Arrakis.
Arrakis. We got the arrival when she's talking to all the squids is all that kind of like you said. It's almost monochromatic.
Yep.
Looks like just like the planet where the Atreides live and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, you said that you kind of have hinted towards it. So for our viewers' question this week, we wanted to talk about what are some of our favorite Denis Villeneuve movies. I think you've seen all of his movies.
Not all. I never saw Incendies, which is
Okay.
like his kind of what made a big splash for him.
And I missed out
But I've seen pretty
on.
much all the rest of
I
it.
missed out on Prisoners. Was the one I missed out on?
Okay.
Because we watched the other one.
You saw Enemy.
Yeah, because you recommended that one,
Yeah.
right? Was the Enemy the one where it takes place in Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then it has that giant.
Yeah. Don't watch Enemy if you're an arachnophobe.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Then saw
Pretty
Enemy,
much.
and I've seen all of his other stuff post that.
Yeah, Sicario and
Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and Dune.
now Dune. Yeah.
So okay, I have a couple listed here. Do you want to talk about a little bit of his movies, or do you have one just flat off the top of your head that you want to say?
Well, I will say this. I think all of his movies that I've seen, again, I think I've seen pretty much everything he's done besides Incendies. And if he has another one in there, then I'm missing it. But I've seen Prisoners. I've seen Enemy. Those came out the same year, actually. Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, and now Dune. And I think all of those are worth watching.
Yep.
Even if, again, I don't hate Blade Runner 2049. I just ultimately kind of gave it thumbs down. Whatever. I didn't like it overall. But I still thought it was worth seeing. And
Yeah.
I would probably watch it again. I wouldn't mind it. Unlike say, for example, Dune 1984. I don't really ever want to see that again. We watched it for this so that you could see it in comparison to the 2021 one.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it again. But I think, I don't know, for me, it's kind of a toss-up between Sicario and Arrival. I like those both a lot. Those were good. Dune's not the best film I think that he's done, even though I did like it. I think
I'm warmer than you on Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah,
but,
you definitely are.
But for me, it's also a toss-up between Sicario and Arrival. I like Sicario a lot. I think it's really well written. It's a very interesting story, but I also really like Arrival. And Arrival like resonated with me a little bit.
Yeah, they're both excellent. I think Sicario slightly edges out Arrival for me. I think Sicario is probably the best in the new film I've seen.
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong with that. For sure.
Good. It's great.
I mean, Roger Deakins did Sicario. Like, he was the director of photography. I think he also was director of photography.
And it was Taylor, what's his face? Right?
Yeah, Taylor Sheridan, who wrote one of my favorite movies, Hell or High Water.
Yeah, great film.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great writer. Yeah, good actor, great writer.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Sicario probably, yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, Sicario and Arrival are both good, but I think Sicario is probably the best thing that he's done for me. Yeah. Good one.
All right. Well, it's your turn. Let us know what your favorite Denis Villeneuve movie is. It could be Dune. Let us know.
It could be Enemy if you love spiders.
Yeah, it could be Enemy if you love spiders. We should do Enemy and Arachnophobia together. Just let us know down in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. That's where we answer viewer questions like this, and we need viewer questions. So you guys have not been emailing us, and shame on you. Please email us and let us know. Like, subscribe, share this episode, do all that social media stuff. That really does help spread the word, and we really do appreciate it. And since Andy picked some adaptations of a famous novel series for this week, I decided to do the exact same thing for next week.
Yay!
So stay tuned for that while we go into another, it's not a sextet of novels, it's a septet of novels next week. And stay tuned for that, guys. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.